Well, hello. Hello, welcome into another edition of the Chi Time podcast with me, Clara Apollo here. I'm actually recording this for you on the 21st of September, which is taking us beautifully into the equinox window. And you know that I love to chat about balance and actually be in your balance and what does balance mean to you and all of that kind of thing. So that's definitely going to be part of what I'm going to be chatting about in this episode. But also, I have my dear friend Dhyan Ji is with me. She is coming to chat about the power of community and why we are being so called to be in community, all different kind of forms of community. You know, from being in communing with oneself is a good start, but also your local community, your family community, your old friends, your new friends, your middle friends or whatever, and also this call to be in conscious communities. So as Dhyan does quite a lot of organizing of said conscious communities, and those of you that remember I used to run conscious living events, we've got plenty to chat about. So let me bring her on screen for you here, or if you're listening on the podcast, here she comes on mic. Welcome in, Dhyan.
Hi, Clara. Oh, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh,
Can't wait to see what magic we create here.
You're so grateful, and you're reminding me that my friends from up north always call me Clara. Always do, and I never mind. It's a fondness that I have for you all up there. So yeah, where are you beaming in from today?
I'm actually in Cheshire, so I'm in near Congleton in Cheshire today.
Yeah. Well, I'm down near Glastonbury, so we are on the same planet. But here we are to chat about communities. And I mean, it's a tricky question to sort of look into. Do you think there are more communities now, or do you think we're just becoming more aware that we need more communities now?
I think there are more now. I mean, if I go back to 2012 when I started my spiritual gatherings in Congleton in Cheshire, I was kind of pioneering the idea back then. And now there's been an explosion in communities, events, festivals, gatherings generally of awakening people. There's just, it's quite incredible what's happened.
It is, and I mean, all the festivals that have been going on this summer. I don't know if you managed to get to any. Did you?
Yeah, I was actually asked to speak and share a few more this year, and I'm hoping to do more next year. Yeah.
So what was the feeling there of being in a community in a festival, in a kind of like a pop-up city, really, isn't it? Pop-up town.
Yeah, actually, that's a great way of explaining it. So for me, obviously, there are lots of different festivals and events, and they all have their own unique qualities and feel to them. So one that I went to this year was called Heal. That was in Shropshire, and I spoke in a tent to a group of people that just came in and sat down, and I shared darshan, meditation, and my healing frequencies. So that was really beautiful. I really enjoyed that. I think it may have been quite an unusual experience for most of them. One of the main themes of that festival was kind of around pop music as well, and it was about healing ancestry and healing the history in the world, actually. So it was quite a big theme that I won't go into right now, but
yeah, no, but I'm glad that you also mentioned that what you're sharing, what it is you share in these gatherings, and what you know, and also so I just, before we get into the past, I was at Green Man Festival, and I just really love sleeping on the land. I mean, obviously I had my little, you know, blow up mattress and all of that, but to be so close to Mother Earth and to be away from EMFs, and then my phone didn't work, it just wasn't picking up network, and it was such a relief. I really was landed even more in the now moment, and although, you know, it's a bit strange having a two-person tent, which is not really, it's like not really much room, but it just, every time I open the zips are the theme at festivals, aren't they? All these zips going on, unzip, zip up, all of that. but to open up to the blue sky in the morning, and to be with these sort of light-minded or like-hearted people. There's thousands of people out there that have chosen to be on the land, and with Green Man it's very environmentally conscious, so there's no litter and there's lots of recycling, so there's that integrity running through it all as well. And I think when we come into these new communities, it is like, what is the remit here? What are we doing? What are we about? So can we backtrack a little bit, because Dhyan was actually brought up in a community, and I just wonder, has that always been then part of who you are? You just know community life.
Yeah. So when I was 7, I went to Rajneeshpuram, Osho's, or Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh's community that was in Oregon, in the desert in Oregon, essentially, in America. And so that was my first experience of community as a 7-year-old. And it was a huge community. It wasn't a small space. There were literally hundreds of people there, maybe even thousands, actually. I don't know the exact numbers. And we would all go and meditate in the mornings. We learned to chant. We were chanting the Gachamis. And so community life for me was this vast expanse of people in the middle of the Oregon desert, living in an A-frame, or sleeping in an A-frame, waking up in an A-frame, and then getting on buses and going to different parts of the community. Everyone had jobs. We all worked sort of 12 hours a day. And apart from me, my 2 sisters went off to the farm, so they helped with the animals. They were both really little. When I think about it, it's kind of crazy. My mum worked in the washing rooms, doing all the washing, so she did that for 12 hours, which was a huge job because there were so many people living there. My dad was a trained electrician, so he was fixing things all day, every day. So for 3 months, that was our life, was in this incredible space. I mean, we were surrounded by mountains. There was no street lights, so at night you could just see the stars everywhere. It was absolutely incredible. I remember that so clearly as a child. And we would often come across nature. One day I saw a snake. Sometimes we would hear coyotes. So we were really, really kind of in this. I mean, for me, that was probably my first festival.
Right, yes.
But it was a full-on everyday festival. So that was my first experience of community. And then when I was in my 20s, I actually went to Glastonbury Festival and worked on the stalls there. But I think I did that for a couple of years, actually. So yeah, it's quite deeply rooted within my bones and my experience and my understanding of life and why we're all here and how important it is, how difficult it can be too.
Yeah.
Especially sharing a house. Communal living can be really, really tricky. I've done that. I've experienced that a few times.
Yeah, that is true. That whole like call to community, like it's all going to be roses and sing songs around the fire. It's like, no, it's real life. It's like how you manage to live alongside others with all the ebbs and flows and wefts and weaves going on. And I think this sort of way of coming into conscious awareness of working on yourself first, so that when you come into community, you've got a few tools, psychological tools under your belt, and hopefully others that are there also are getting more aligned with that kind of way of being. Which means if you find sort of snags and problems, you've kind of got protocols to work with, and hopefully not take things too seriously. But then that, things happen, don't they? And we get caught off guard and kind of stuff comes in and it's like, oh, I'm sorry about that. So, thanks for that trigger,
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was a teenager living in Devon, and our house was really a community. There were lots of people coming and going. And when we first moved in, my dad was actually sharing the house with a lady who also had her family there. So there was a lot of dynamics.
Mm.
And when he took the house over for himself, there was three girls, being my sisters, my dad was away a lot in London, and so we had people coming and looking after us and as we got older that became less, but then all of our friends would be coming round, and then our friends would be staying, and we'd be having these, you know, parties and gatherings, and there was always music and there was always people around, and we'd be up late at night chatting, and I got used to that. And also my dad was very much connected with the Osho community in India at this point. So when people who had gone to the community and had been there a while came back to the UK and kind of didn't really know what to do and how to pick up with their life, they'd sometimes end up coming and staying with us. And so there was this real constant flow of incredible people. I mean, absolutely incredible healers, therapists, people with all kinds of talents and gifts. And I was very lucky because I was at home quite a lot for different reasons, really. And because of that, I really got to know most of these people, and it was just fascinating. And I'm actually reconnected with one through Facebook a few years
Another
ago.
community. So we're talking about
Yeah.
the organic, living community, and then how that can spill over into the digital world and our online communities, because they've been a big source of support, particularly over all the craziness that was going on. That calling in. Thank goodness we did have the Zoom to come into meetings, or to form groups, or to find solace with other people that, because I was living on my own at the time, didn't even have my cat, and it was just like, I just moved here after 5 years of not having a home at all, and I've been here for 4 years now. And I was part of that, was like, oh, I can land, I can be, but I was also curious about the community that I'd found myself in. Of course, it's tumbleweed out there. There's nobody on the street, there's no one there. It's like, where have I landed? So it's taken a while to sort of get to know the community here, and the community a bit more up in Glastonbury as well. But I think that sort of drawing back into your home, it reminds me about coming back into yourself, into your own community inside, and that self-reflection, that self-care, is actually, I think that's the key to everything, really, to remember that you are important to take care of physically, emotionally, energetically, because when you do, you can be of better service to others and to humanity. And so this topic of balance is, I think, really important to us, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So Dhyan's been doing a sterling job sharing the Elevate Your Mind weekend that's happening in Nantwich at the end of October. I mean, I'm just like, I can't believe how you're getting so much stuff out there. So I'm like, how do you manage yourself with all of the stuff that you have to do? Because, ostensibly you're working on your own, aren't you?
Yeah, I am very lucky though. I do have a team of people who are good friends of mine, and I do also have a coach now that helps me with some of the graphics, and has helped me with various things actually over the last year now. So I'm not completely on my own, but
Okay, that's good to know. Yes,
yeah,
it's a complete fallacy, isn't it? That, oh,
yeah.
the self-made millionaire did it all herself. It's like, no, unlikely. She got some good mates or some, and I don't think that we don't need to sort of prove that we can do everything on our own now. We're not supposed to do everything on our own. This community, this call into this multi-generational community, multi-diverse, talented community, so that we can work with our strengths and our gifts alongside others that are doing so too.
Absolutely. So for me, it's people have come in. I've noticed there's been a pattern in my life so far. People have come into my life at specific times, and almost like specific parts on the road, where there's a turning that says, metaphorically speaking, go this way or go this way, and someone's gone, hey, it's this direction. And I've been really blessed in people showing up and sharing their space with me, or people just coming in to support me in some way. And I know I've done this with other people, but it's always really beautiful when it happens, and I'm always really grateful. So yes, I have a coach who's helping me. I have an incredible photographer who's been helping me since day dot, since he began his career. I also have another friend of mine helping me with my website. So, and although, you know, we're not always in contact, it can be quite sporadic at times, they are helping me hold it all together.
Exactly. And that's the thing, you know, that what's the energy that helps us hold ourselves together will help us to hold our projects and our
Yeah.
events together, you know. And this nurturing piece, this nurturing of self and of projects as well. How much time do you give? How much time can you allocate? And time is that thing that kind of is all the linear time, time management. Oh, days are going really quickly again, and then there's this other concept of time that is spacious, that is like feels like plentiful when we're in the chi zone, as I call it, or quantum field 0 point, that place of deep healing and presence where time is not required, and that whole nanosecond can be massive sense of landing, being, connecting. So how do you find this different kind of relationship with time in your life?
That's really interesting, because at the beginning of this year, I started to run these bigger events. And so I've been planning a year ahead, and that's not something I've ever done before or had to do. So that's been quite a challenge for me, thinking thinking about what am I going to do next year, and you know, when do I need to plan for, and what needs to get done. I think when I first started out running events, I was very much in the flow, in that space of presence, and everything was coming from that. I feel like this last year has kind of pulled me more into the mind with all this organizing and stuff. So that I found that challenging, because that's not my natural state. So getting the balance, as you were saying about balance, getting that balance back between planning and knowing that this needs to get done, and also making sure that I'm leaving space for life to do its thing, for the magic to happen of its own accord.
Exactly. If we don't leave space, where's the magic going to drop in? And have you got any little tips that you could share with the listeners as to how you find yourself moments of spaciousness and amongst the busyness? And
Yeah, absolutely. So it always comes back to meditation for me. And meditation is our natural state of being, beyond, you know, when we're in the busy mind. And meditation brings me straight into that space of presence. So although I've spent many years just floating around in that space of presence, now I feel like I have to, because of what I'm planning and how busy things have got in my physical experience, make sure that I create that space to meditate, be calm, listen to my breath, check in with myself. And I think a great thing as well is to ask yourself, what do you need?
that
So
is,
like, what do I need?
I know. So I got, sorry, we're on a roll here. So this is the thing, you know. So if you're listening or watching this, when you reach for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, if you could just ask yourself, what is it I'm really asking for here? And are there other methods I could use to gain that possibly aren't using caffeine? Definitely aren't using caffeine, because caffeine is an overrider, isn't it? It overrides what it is we need, and it pulls us a bit more into the adrenalized state, which we know is more in the sympathetic nervous system. So it's going to be activating the adrenal glands, and cortisol, which doesn't help with stress levels, and weirdly, all of that stops you from losing weight as well. So that call to self-care. What do I really need here? If I need energy, well, one of the protocols that comes with the Qigong is the first thing you do is you stop, probably with meditation as well. Just stop and land. Stop, stand, land, as I say. Just letting your physicality stop in time. So you're not coming, well, the past bit is behind you, the future's in front. You're not traveling in either of them. You actually land in the present moment. And that, as you know, is a big gift, because when you're busy, you're always going through the present moments you don't recognize. And I wonder if this is a thing around thinking when time's going so quickly, it's because we haven't given time for ourselves to actually presence ourselves in the now moment. What do you think?
Yeah, from my own experience, dropping into that space beyond the mind is where time expands into eternity. So we have this, I mean, at the end of the day, time is a man-made concept, right? We're living in an eternal now that is expansive and is kind of looping around on itself. And we are these multidimensional beings that are experiencing life on many different levels, all at the same time, all in the now. So that's the way I see time. That's the way I experience it. Is when I stop, it expands. When I'm on this kind of treadmill, hamster wheel, if you like, which I know many of us end up getting on, even when we don't want to,
Yeah.
then it's like everything's going so fast and we can't keep up with what we need to do, and there's too much, there's a lot going on. So when we stop, time naturally expands, because we're not in our mind, we're going into that space of presence, which is the eternal now, the place of everything and all of creation.
And from that's the place into the liminal space of all possibility, the void of all possibility, the deep yin, where you can touch it for a moment, will re-energize you like nothing else. And that was a big thing when I was doing my training. I was a single mum and I was training to be a Qigong teacher, and it was like, what do you mean doing nothing means I'm going to get energy? It was just like counterintuitive. How does that work? I have no idea. And then I started to experience it, but quite a lot of the time I needed to rest first of all, and I would sleep more, and I would have little siestas, and obviously before he got home from school. But it was just like, where can I grab moments to self-resource and honor that and put that on the priority? I mean, I'm still work in progress. I haven't got it all sussed, and he's left home years ago, and I still got loads on my plate, but that's my choice. And I think that's another piece, isn't it? When you realize that whatever you're dealing with, you've chosen somewhere. And so therefore you have the option of being able to choose something different. And that, I think, is a big awareness. That's what tripped me out of my menopausal fog, stuck in a toxic relationship, where he had lost his job and I was breadwinning, and I had punishing headaches and was on the feisty menopause front, and I just couldn't cope anymore. And it was a dear friend of mine that reminded me that I could choose something different, and it was like, thank you for reminding me. So that's the thing. We do have the power of choice. How wisely can we use that?
That's really beautiful. I totally relate to that. In fact, part of the way that I actually found you, I think we were already connected on social media, but it was when you started the online group for the Qigong, and I was going through perimenopause at the time, and I was having all kinds of issues going on with my body. It was absolutely insane. One of them was this rash that just kind of spread all over me and was really debilitating and really affected the way that I felt about myself and my confidence and things. And I remember I was having like a real bad flare up, and I was listening to something that you'd shared, and and I ended up doing the exercises, and I thought, wow, this woman, she's really got something here. She's really sharing something that's profoundly helpful for others, and is just, just what people need at this time.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I feel
Yeah.
it, having had my own experience and also seeing thousands of other people having their experiences. But you know what's weird about Qigong is that, deep in the recesses of where it's all coming from is you're not supposed to big it up. The whole idea is to encourage people to have their own experiences
Mm.
with no expectation from what somebody else has had. And I'm like,
Mm.
how do you share the goodness of this practice then? And through something like what you've just said, you've had an experience, and that's your experience. And for you to say that, it may encourage someone else to go, well, maybe it can help me, but it won't be the same experience as yours, but it could open them into what's right for them, because ultimately it's this self-empowerment place, and that can be quite challenging to take yourself on. But qigong is also really deeply compassionate practice. It doesn't mind if you don't do it every day. It doesn't tell you off. Every time you return, be like meditation, every time you come back, and it's like coming back home. It's like, welcome back. Again, time means nothing in the quantum zone, does it? It's like, you've returned. That's the practice. How are you right now? How's it all feeling? And I really love that um, invitation to deep self-compassion. I think we need more of that in our world.
Mm. Beautiful. Love that. Yes, the way our internal dialogue is a great example of that. And when that internal dialogue is unkind, um, to ourselves, if we beat ourselves up with the words that we say to ourselves, or if we're taking on board anyone else's criticisms, and we decided that's the way we should speak to ourselves. Yeah, I think it's so important. Something that I've learned as I've got a bit older is self-acceptance. And that was like a real powerful thing. I think that started when in my 30s, actually. And it was this recognition that this is how I am. I'm either fighting against myself, or I'm accepting the way I am, and I'm accepting all these parts of myself exactly as they are. And that's the way we actually heal, I would say. It's not that there's anything wrong with us. Not really. It's about accepting all these aspects of ourselves. And I'm still learning now,
Yes, of course.
even although I'm teaching and I'm sharing
We're,
meditation
we're,
and
we're always
all of that
learning.
stuff.
I never want to
Yeah.
stop learning. It's fascinating, this journey called life, and beyond. The other realm is intriguing, where we've come from and where we're returning to, and all the,
Mm.
yeah, there's so much we don't know in our local minds, and it's building that relationship with your energy body, of your eternal soul being. And I remember one of my mentors would say to me, like, it's only when he's channeling information, you've probably had this come through as well, that spirit will say that you don't realize how much of you is a spiritual being having a human experience until you lose your body, and then you'll realize just how much of you is eternal and just inhabiting this vehicle for a moment in time. And it's our job to sort of explore why we're here, what's going on. And I think that's very that kind of really landed for me, for like oh, so most of who I really am is the eternal part of me that just happens to have landed in a body for now, and is yeah, curious about it all. I don't know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, beautiful. I love how you express that. So from my experience and my perspective is, I had my kind of awakenings into who I am, who and what I am, started when I was 6 with an experience at school. When I was being bullied, there were various reasons that happened. I was kind of written off at school. She can't read, she can't write, and she isn't any good at anything. That's what my teacher said to my mum. So you can imagine how that affected me. And also my experience as a child was quite difficult. My dad was carrying a lot of anger within him, and he could be quite distant at times. So I had a lot of different dynamics going on.
Mm. Mm.
But this particular day in the playground, I saw these words that were written on the wall, and they were unkind. And somehow I could read them. Maybe it was because they were really big and simple. They were written on the wall. So I went to another part of the playground, and I was really upset, angry, frustrated, just not understanding why this was happening. And I felt the wind around me, and it felt like it was intentionally soothing me. I had this soothing feeling from the wind. And I asked, as a child, we play, don't we? We play. We're in that space of play. We're in that space of innocence, and we're just exploring all of this. And we don't have there aren't any limitations specifically. I think as a child, we just view everything with open, innocent eyes, and we allow our experiences. So in these moments, the wind was blowing around me, and I began to really notice this and feel it. And I asked the wind to blow, and it did. And I asked it to stop, and it did. And I looked up at the trees and the clouds, and I thought, wow, this is all of life is like interacting with me. I'm not separate from all of this. And although I didn't have those words, there was just this real knowing that there's something so much more. And all my anger, frustration, everything just dissolved essentially.
Wow, that's a big, big realization for a young kid to have, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was so natural. I mean, awakening is a very natural thing. But I think what kind of tied in really well was was going to America and going to the community.
Right, you were ready. Then that follow up for you really worked. I
Yeah,
also, as you were saying that, I really felt that you were initiated into the community of nature. It was like, yeah,
absolutely.
I am part of nature. Nature's part of who I am, and like all
Yeah.
of us, we're all part of nature. We're in that common unity together
Mm.
of being in nature. So this kind of brings us back round into the community and how we're all being called in to gather at the moment in our different factions and having crossovers into different communities as well. And we know as the world shifts and changes, like this call to local community is really, really key. It's great being online as well, don't get me wrong, but also this call to being in community with people who are doing high vibrational healing for the planet, or coming into community to do retreats on specific themes to help raise that frequency. And so is this part of why you create your Elevate Your Mind weekend festivals, really?
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of take us back a little bit, in 2012, after another awakening where I call it my bliss phase, because I had an awakening that led me into a space of bliss. And from that, I received guidance through meditation to start a group. Didn't know how any of this was going to happen, of course, and I'd never done anything like that before. But within a couple of months, I started spiritual groups first of all, in a hotel in Congleton, which then moved to my friend Dawn's place. And it went on for 5.5 years. And I brought in lots of different people from all over the world. And this also took me on an inner journey, because then I had another awakening in 2013 when I was organizing another event and I started to bring in spiritual teachers. I didn't feel ready to teach at this time, but I'd had this profound realization, and I recognized that that was the core of everything that I wanted to share. So I was bringing in all these different spiritual teachers, musicians, people who really had deep, profound awakenings and were able to share that space of presence. And as I was doing this, I was sharing my meditations more and more. And eventually I went into sharing darshan. I'd kind of had an initiation. I actually took my mum to go and see Mother Meera many years ago. And whilst I was there, I had this deeper shift into my own awakening. And I recognized that it was time for me to share. I didn't know how really I was going to do it, but people started to come to me. They started to find their way to me, and all kinds of things, all kinds of magic and very extraordinary things started to happen, which would be hard for me to put into words. Probably wouldn't make much sense to anybody, but life was wanting to awaken life through me. Let's put it that way. So, and I think for all of us on this awakening journey, that's the role that we play. We're here to hold that space for others, to create and hold this incredible wave of awakening that's happening through the planet right now. And we're here as guides, as lights, as light workers, whatever terminology you want to call it. Way showers, wisdom keepers, shamans, mystics, all of it, right? And there are quite a few of us now. And
and we've all got a piece of the jigsaw, and I think that's why it's so beautiful coming into the Elevate Your Mind events, or Mind Body Spirit. We're going to be at that one in Birmingham as well, aren't we? And that, because there's such a range of different talents there, that you can have experiences with people or products that you might not have been able to have access to, and then it all comes back to the experiential, doesn't it? What actually works for you? Well, you need to give it a go. And at these places, you can come in and do taster sessions. And I'm going to be up in Nantwich at the end of October with you. And it's really weird because my mum's from Nantwich. This is so funny. And she was really excited, going, "Oh, let me show you where I was brought up. Maybe you can go and visit." And then, because I was showing her on Google Earth, and she's like, "Oh, that's it. Can we go into the back garden?" I'm going, "Not on Google Earth, Mum, but So I find this is very interesting that that you're calling me back up to my mother's hometown. It's like, what part of the spirals, what magic's going to happen there? And so I was really, honoured and thrilled, excited to be invited up to your neck of the woods, and to meet other people that are like international players. So they're coming in to there, aren't they? And it's like, it's so good that local people that that are local actually have got their international community, and yet we bring it into the local community. I see this more and more going on. Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was running my events, back to that again, in Congleton, I was literally bringing in people from all over the world. So my network went from, well, actually, it went from the four walls of my house to the whole globe, like really fast, through Facebook, through the spiritual teachers that I was connecting with, through the events, through people that were coming to the events. And people were traveling, even although my events back then were quite small in comparison. People were traveling from London, from Spain, from France, from America. One lady was in Australia. I mean, it was incredible. And the events in Nantwich and Alsage this year and next year are to hold that space of awakening, to continue this gift, this process for people. And I'm bringing in speakers, healers, therapists, makers and creators to open up people's minds and hearts to different ways of living, well-being, spiritual, to help them on their spiritual journey, their awakening, to access tools and gifts and all kinds of things to bring them into the deepest knowledge of themselves and help them know how to heal themselves as well.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. It's turning on the healing capacity that you all have. And as you were saying that, I was also remembering about like one of the greatest integrating tools we have is dance. And
Yeah.
you and I have yet to meet on a dance floor, but we know it's part of our future. And that's something that nourishes me. I mean, last night at Dance Medicine in Glastonbury, Sophie Bolton was on the decks, and oh my word, we had like the more people than we've had for ages in that place, and it was thrumming, and there was so much joy and connection, and that was dance community. You know, you meet in movement. You don't meet in speaking. You meet in the language of movement and expression and the joy of rhythms and the melodies and dance and freedom to throw whatever shapes you feel like, or go and do a bit of meditation by the peace candle or something. You know, it's like when we can free our systems up for pure self-expression, that is one of the most healing things we can give ourselves. So I hope there's going to be some dancing up at Nantwich. We'll have
You
to
never
find
know.
our way. We'll find our
We'll
way.
have to find a way. That was something that I brought into my other events as well. Musicians, music.
Yeah, musicians, absolutely, sound healing and all of that. So, how can people find out more about your events and what you do? Yeah, where can they go?
Well, they can find me on Facebook, Dhyan Ji. I have a website which is www.elevateyourmind.life. I'm also on YouTube, Dhyan Ji on YouTube, TikTok, Dhyan Ji official on TikTok, Instagram, elevateyourmind.life. Again, I've got a few accounts on Instagram. Yeah, so you can connect with me there. My Nantwich event is the 28th and 29th of October, and it's 2 days at Nantwich Civic Hall, and it's £10 for one day, 15 for the full weekend, which is just cheap as chips. Very accessible. Yeah. And me and Clara are going to be at the Mind Body Spirit Festival in Birmingham on the 14th?
No, it's the 18th and 19th of November. I think we're booked in for the 19th, aren't we? So
yeah, the Sunday.
Ceremonials place with dear Quali, and then Pixie Pete's going to be DJing at the end. Yes, you see, that's where they're going to get our dancing.
Oh, great. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, so really excited to be there. It's really interesting that's come full circle for me, because I first discovered the Mind Body Spirit events when my dad was managing David Pramel and Mitten many years ago.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and ended up
that feels like a whole nother story. So what we
it really is.
What would be lovely to do is when we're at the Elevate Your Mind, let's see if we want to drop in and do some response and feedback and come into like letting people know how it's going, what we're noticing been going on. And I don't know, let's just play with this, because we want to share with you guys out there in Chi Time Land and beyond. And as ever, we'd really love to hear from you as well. So do drop into the Chi portal on Facebook. And Clara Jo Apollo, don't ever call me Clara Jo, please. It's just I had to do that for Facebook and Insta when they threw me off last year. What other name am I going to use? Clara Apollo is the one. It's like, all right, bring your middle name in. And what I also wanted to say was that, can you just spell your name for people who are listening?
Sure. It's DHYAN and then JI.
Thank you. DHYAN. J-I. Beautiful. Well, look, as ever, a total joy to share presence with you and stories, and I hope that some of what we've shared will be helpful for our listeners and viewers. So thank you so much for being part of Chi Time, Dhyan.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. And thanks for all of you for listening and watching. I really appreciate your presence. Your energy is important, and so are you. I'll be back next time with more Chi Time. Your energy matters. Take good care of yourself. Yeah. Much love. Bye for now.